evening, everyone. And if I could ask you a favor, all that can hear us all right, just give us a thumbs up. Okay, good. Mike? Michael? Yep, okay, good. Just checking. This is our first night with the new screens, so we're not expecting any problems, but hopefully it'll go smooth. So, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting for the Swanton Village Board of Trustees for Monday, May 10th, 2021. Have a busy agenda this evening, but hopefully everything goes smooth. The next item on our agenda this evening is to start by giving the Pledge of Allegiance. You can join in or wait for us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good, thank you. Next item on our agenda this evening is agenda review. Do we have any changes, additions, executive sessions?
I just need to add, not quite sure where we'll put it in, either after public comment. We'll probably put it down to any other business. We're going to do a hydro production update.
Okay. Do it under any other business.
Yeah.
Necessary.
Necessary.
Good. Next item on our agenda is public comment. I think we have a couple. I think Janet has something to say, and Elizabeth was supposed to be on here in a little bit. So, first public comment is our SPAN group update on the art display grant that they applied for our Marble Mill project. So, if you'd like to brief us on that, Janet? I'm assuming you're the spokesman or spokesperson for this evening.
I am. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
So good evening, everyone. I am Janet DeMcSwaby. I am a member of the Swanton Public Art Network, otherwise known as SPAN. And back in March, you granted SPAN a letter of permission to place public art in the Marble Mill Park through the Animating Infrastructure Grant from the Vermont Arts Council. So originally we were one of 40 who sent a letter of interest outlining our project. We were selected one of 12 to submit the full proposal. They chose 5 of 12. Unfortunately, we were not one of those 5. I did request and receive feedback from the judges who overall were excited to see the project to completion, but the review panel felt that the project could benefit from the community with a lot of positive change. They had good goals, was a nice larger vision for the art in the community. There was a lot of potential to make something unique to Swanton in a very visible location. However, they were concerned over what needed a bit more work. So the specific areas or ideas of the art component in the park were unclear. The open forum process didn't feel quite completely focused in their mind. The overall budget for the selected artists seems small, so that was the stipend they were giving to the artists once they were chosen. And then referring back how the art connects back to the park's master plan, they suggested would be a good idea too. So it is expected that they will reopen this grant in the summer for another round. I intend to write again to make the changes making the changes suggested. Sorry, my nerves are getting to me. SPAN would like to know if public art in the Marble Mill project is still acceptable to the trustees, or should I, as the wearing the hat of the grant writer, focus on a different area to bring more public art into Swanton? I didn't know if you had any feedback or any ideas you would like to throw my way.
I say continue on.
Yeah, I would too.
You know, it's
discouraging. I don't want to say discouraging, disappointing, you know, that we weren't awarded it, but you know, we came in at least between 6 and 12. So, you know, we're getting there. So I would say keep up the good fight.
Well, part of it was I had the
the forum process leading what we're doing for art, where I think they wanted to see us having the plan for art to begin with. So it's the idea of the area that I was looking at for us to go in is, see, if you walk into the Marble Mill Park, you have the river to your far left. On the right side, there's an embankment going up, where in the master plan, it was outlined to take out the invasive plants and put in more natural plants. We were trying to bring a structure to that area that would include either something that you could interact with or something that would be moving with wind assistance and a little bit of gardening ground texture to go on. Does that sound something along the lines of what you gentlemen were thinking, or?
Yeah, I mean, as long as we can get those evasives out of there, I mean, we do have a plan still, and we plan on moving forward with that, but yeah, I'd like to, Janet, when you do it again, just hopefully by then, COVID will be beyond us. I mean, the governor's lifted, that's why we don't, a lot of our mandates right now, and all of us have been vaccinated, so that's why we don't have our mask on, but when you start doing it, we could probably sit down and with you and tweak it if we need to, and yeah, I'd offer up the services to help you.
All right, I do apologize. You guys are a small screen, and I don't know your voices by name yet. Who was speaking?
That was me, Reggie. I was Reggie.
Thank you, Reggie. I thought it was you, but I didn't want to misspeak.
Another thing, Janet, this is Neil Spear. We're moving closer to the finalization of the Marble Mill master plan, and hopefully we'll be closer to the do it now process of that before you have to apply for another loan or grant. And we're also in the planning stages right now. Within the next couple of weeks, we'll be clearing some of that area, so make Marble Mill more visible. So I think the next step, when we get ready to apply again, they'll be able to notice that we're serious about it. Like Reggie says, we're going to clean the bank up too, but COVID's thrown a wrench in a lot of the works here. So, but yeah, I agree with Adam. I think we should press on, or you should press on. And I appreciate all you people are doing too. It's it'll come together. So, anybody
We will
else?
persevere for Swan.
Yeah. Anybody else like to say anything? Okay. Are you all set then, Janet?
I am all set. I thank you very much. And when I have more information on the next round, I will use Reggie as my point of contact, and I will contact together, and then we'll move forward as a group.
Okay. Yeah. If you need anything, don't be afraid to contact one of us, and we'll see what we can do to move this thing forward. So. Okay.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else in public comment? I don't hear anything. If not, I guess we'll move on to item number 5 on the agenda this evening. And that item is to approve and accept the minutes for our Monday, April 26, 2021 meeting. Have those in your packet. Well, we don't have packets anymore. Have them on your machine. What's your pleasure on the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
So moved. Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to approve and accept our minutes from the Monday, April 26th meeting. Any discussion on the minutes? Corrections? Oh, good. Diane did a good job.
Very well.
Good job.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried unanimously. Item number 6, approve and accept the village warrants through Thursday, May 7th, 2021. I assume you have a copy of those in front of you. What's your pleasure on the village warrants?
I'll move they be approved, 39 through 42.
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to approve and accept the village warrants number 39 through 42. Any discussion, questions?
All good?
If not, all those in favor of the motion to approve and accept the village warrants signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion is carried unanimously again. Item number 7, the update on the Missisquoi River water line crossing under the bridge downtown. Wayne Elliott is here and he's going to give us an update on that project. Welcome to Swanton remotely, Wayne.
Yeah, I miss being in person.
Got Mike Maynard here with me too, and so this started a little while back. You know, it's been identified as a concern kind of for redundancy. You know, you have your supply on the west side and your storage on the east side of the river, you know, and you have that single water line crossing that's hung on the bridge. So if there was an issue or break in that, you know, you're going to be pretty challenged to move water either from the west to the east or from the east to the west side. So, you know, the village is trying to be proactive here and wanted to really look at an alternatives there to have a redundant water line to the one on the bridge. So we started this study up, you know, a little over 6 months ago, and we submitted a draft 90% to the state here in February. Just been kind of sitting on it here for the last couple of months, and, you know, talked to Reg and wanted to give the board an update. And of course, with all the funding that's coming down the pipeline here soon, you know, there's some great opportunities for funding as we move forward over the next few months. So I'm going to have Mike, he's going to do a quick overview of the study, just give you a brief kind of high level view of what we looked at initially and the alternatives. And then he'll kind of focus on the proposed project at the end, and we can, you know, talk a little bit about the next steps here. Okay.
Sounds good.
Are you gonna share your screen, Mike?
Yeah, I got a screen share. I can, I think you're gonna have to let me pop this up here. Oh,
See, we have the younger guys do this because, you know, Reg and I have some IT challenges here.
yeah, I think, Reg, you're gonna have to give me permission. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Let me bring that right up here.
For you, Mike.
Yeah, if you left it up to me and Reg, we'd be looking at a blank screen here.
Yeah. So, can everyone see this?
I can.
Okay, great. So, oh, go ahead.
You're all set, Mike. We can see the water system map.
Yeah. So I think, you know, pretty much everyone from the village has probably been involved in a lot of infrastructure projects. You know, just as a quick review, we do these in 3 steps, step 1, step 2, and step 3. Step 2 and 3, that's final design and construction. Step 1 is planning, and we're in the final stages of that. And the end product of that is this preliminary engineering report. It's currently at 90%. That means it's pretty close to complete, but it's still out for questions or comments if folks have that. And I don't know if the trustees have had a chance to see that. We're happy to make sure it gets distributed. Just a quick review of how your water system works. It serves about 1,900 people. You know, your water comes from a surface water treatment plant that's down by Lake Champlain. That's down in this area here. That treats the water and pumps it up into your distribution system. That's this area up around the village. And then the water continues up into a storage tank that's about a mile east of town. And that storage tank that holds the water, that stores it till it's needed, and it also maintains constant pressure. So basically, when someone uses water in the village, the water is actually flowing down from the water storage tank usually. And if there's a higher flow event like fire or need for flushing, that's where that tank really becomes critical, because it can provide a lot more water than the water treatment plant can on its own. The water treatment plant, that was refurbished in 2010. Transmission main that runs from the village out to the water storage tank that was installed in 2015, and the village has been doing a bunch of other sort of miscellaneous water main replacement projects. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. This is really focusing in on the village area. So this is downtown right in this area. Oh, I don't know. Sorry, that's popping up. I don't know how to make that stop. This is the River Street side of town. And I just want to point out to folks that there's just a single pipe that connects these two. This is the pipe that's hung off the Depot Street Bridge. You know, the important thing to recognize is that there's no redundancy there. And this is what connects your source to your reservoir, and also connects each side of the distribution system to the source and the reservoir. So without that pipe functioning, there's not a whole lot you can do with your water system. So this is where we get into the purpose and need of the project, and I'm actually going to back up a little bit into the PER. There's a fair amount of text, so I'm not going to spend too much time in there, but this is a fairly important part, just because this is, you know, where we talk about why the village should consider spending this money. And you know, I should add that this is just an update. We're not looking for a decision this evening or necessarily an action, but this is really just a chance to start getting some thoughts in your head about what kind of projects you want to be working on here. These are the criteria that the state looks for us to evaluate it against. I think from a health, sanitation, and security perspective, you do have that non-redundant river crossing that is a critical piece of infrastructure. And generally speaking, these aerial crossings connected to bridges are considered less redundant. We like to put those below the riverbed nowadays. They're less susceptible to freezing or damage. And then with this particular one, there's been some recent flooding issues. It's never actually been damaged by a flood. I believe a few years ago you had a flood where the water came within a foot or two of it. It didn't end up getting damaged by any ice or debris, but the potential is definitely there for that. And then you've got just some of the concerns about aging infrastructure. I know that the village has been doing maintenance on this. I believe there's some new installation in the past 5 years. But it does date to the mid 1970s. Typical lifespan for something like this might be 50 years. And then the bridge is also going to be in need of some maintenance in the near future as well. So that's really the definition of the problem and the purpose and need of the project. With these preliminary engineering reports, the next step beyond that is to look at what are some of the alternatives to solving the problem, to meeting the village's needs. And I'm just going to show a couple of maps. We looked at 2 different ways that we could replace this river crossing. I'll zoom out a little bit here. Let's see. So the first alternative we looked at, and this is the alternative that we're viewing as the most favorable, would start somewhere downstream of the bridge. It could start over on Canada Street, or it could come through Marble Mill Park. It would go under the river. There are some really nice HDD techniques, or horizontal directional drilling techniques, that allow you to install pipe underneath the river. Same technique that was used in 2015 on that new transmission main that runs up to your reservoir. We're trying to keep some different options open on the east side of the river here. There's some benefits going through Marble Mill Park, for example. the village already owns that land. There are some drawbacks to it, namely it's a park, and there may be some pretty rocky digging through there. So there's still some options that that are left open to allow some flexibility just as the project continues. We did look at 2 other options. I'll just show the maps for those as well. So under this option, it would be done a fair distance upstream. It would be that South River Street water main. One benefit of this is it's you've got some other old water main that needs to get replaced down here anyways at some point. So you're kind of getting that while you're at it. This is a little bit more challenging with that really tall bank over on the River Street side of the river. We're viewing this option as a little bit less feasible because of that. So it's not something we're recommending. And then the third option would cross just upstream of the Swanton Village Dam. Historically there has been a water main crossing there. It's short. One concern we have there is just, we view that dam as a structure better left untouched. It's not something we necessarily want to be messing around with at this point. It does increase some of the complexity just dealing with the bedrock ledge that the dam is built on. One other thing is this isn't avoiding the single non-redundant main on Depot Street, so you're not getting a full redundancy benefit. And typically we'll evaluate this both based on a monetary factor. So what's the lowest cost alternative, but also what makes the most practical sense for the village. And I'll go up. Then one other thing I should add is that part of this process is we do look at some design criteria like pipe material and pipe size. For this project, we're recommending a new 12-inch pipe. It would be a 12-inch HDPE under the river and then 12-inch PVC on either side of the river. That's pretty consistent with some of the other recent projects the village has done. 12 inches, that's generously sized. It'll provide adequate fire flow, provide plenty of water for future growth in the system. And I'll go up to our estimated costs here. It's going to be page 15. 16. Yeah, so here are our estimated construction costs. Alternative 1, which is that one downstream of the dam, that's really the lowest cost alternative. And the benefit is you've already got a sewer crossing in that neighborhood as well. Just step ahead a little bit to the total project costs. That's going to be on page 20. So here's the total project cost, assuming we went with alternative number 1. This includes construction. It includes a 10% construction contingency, includes engineering, construction phase services, permit fees, and then some of the administrative and legal aspects for the village. Total proposed project cost for this would be $805,000. That includes some inflation in construction costs going out over the next couple of years. As far as a proposed schedule we're looking at here, that's going to be up a few more pages. And this schedule, I should add, it's at this point it is sort of for discussion purposes. This is just looking out, and we think a good chance to work on this project would be. So 2021. We've got this preliminary engineering study. DWSRF priority list application has been submitted. We'll do that every year until the project's done. There's no cost to that. Ideally, we're thinking maybe going to construction in 2023 if there was a really nice, infrastructure package that came out that, created an incentive to push harder and do it sooner. We could, but just given some of the challenges as far as permitting, especially in this area where there's a lot of sensitive features, that's when we're recommending. We aim for construction. One thing I do want to note, one of the key items for these is I think most of the trustees are aware is the need to have a bond vote to bond for the project. To go to construction in 2023, we'd be recommending a bond vote sometime in the November 2021 to March 2023 timeframe. Just in terms of getting ready to take advantage of funding, and especially if it's like a first come first serve type of funding option, you may want to look more in that November 2021 to March 2022 timeframe. That's just something to keep in mind. You could go later, but you could also possibly miss out on some of the best funding opportunities if you did. Then I'll just step forward, just talk a little bit about what some of the funding opportunities here are. That would be on page 23. Page numbering's off. Here we go, page 21. So, like I said, I know a lot of folks here are already really familiar with some of the funding opportunities for projects like this. We've been using the state of Vermont Drinking Water State Revolving Fund pretty frequently for these projects, both in the village here and elsewhere. They offer a disadvantaged system subsidy of up to 50% of total project costs, and the actual percentage is dependent on some of the economic factors and water rates in the area. And so based on those factors currently in the village, we're estimating there would be about a 25% subsidy available. And then historically, they've also been making this additional subsidy available. That's a first come first served subsidy. Last year it was 25%. It varies. It's really hard to predict what that's actually going to be, but that is first come first serve. So that's why you want to make sure you get a bond vote done before some of the other municipalities that might be wanting to take advantage of that. And then anything else that isn't covered by subsidy, that they do offer a 0% loan with a term of up to 40 years. Just if the village were to go ahead and make use of that 25% disadvantaged system subsidy and a 25% additional subsidy, the cost of the project would be about $10,000 per year. There's also a USDA rural development. They offer funding for projects like this as well. They're not offering as favorable a funding package right now. One thing is the village doesn't have a huge amount of debt on their water system, and they factor debt in more. So if you were to use that package, you'd be paying more, higher annual payments. So that's why we're recommending you make use of the DWSRF fund for that. And then of course there's a bunch of other possibilities just as far as infrastructure, like a stimulus package. Right now we don't really know what that's going to be. My understanding is municipalities are already getting a pretty nice amount of funding, something like $300 per person over the next couple months. But I also understand there's other uses folks are thinking of for that as well. But assuming you didn't make any use of that, the roughly estimated per user cost would be somewhere around $6 annually or 50 cents per month. But again, that depends a lot on what the actual funding package is available. Then just a couple next steps. Like I said, this isn't not looking for like a decision this evening, just some stuff to be thinking about going forward to make this project a reality. There's the DWSRF priority list application that's been done this year, and it'll happen next year, and there's no cost to submitting that. That just keeps the project on the state's priority list. There's going to be some environmental review that needs to happen. The environmental information document, it was prepared as part of this report. We'll wait a little bit longer before that goes in, but that's pretty much ready to go. Subsurface investigation, archaeological and historic evaluation. We're recommending for this that something of a pre-design phase be done. This is not a technically complex project. There are a bunch of things that are nice to know before moving into final design. One of those are the subsurface conditions, like what kind of conditions are you going to find as far as installing this pipe underground? And then additionally, there have oftentimes been a lot of archaeological features around Swanton that we have to consider when we're doing these projects. So we're recommending moving forward with those fairly soon. Those are definitely critical path items. So a lot of other final design stuff, you can move that around schedule-wise a little bit, but because the subsurface investigation, archaeological evaluations, they're subcontract work, they're fairly specialized. It's something that should be done sometime later this summer, ideally. And then the big thing for the trustees would be scheduling and preparing for a bond vote. So, there's some flexibility with that time, but again, we're recommending sometime in the November to March 2022 timeframe as being best to have the best chance of making use of a good funding package. But that's a couple months out, but it is something that you have to start preparing for several months in advance. So that's about all I had. We're happy to answer some questions and just hear some thoughts here. So.
Michael, Adam Paxman. So, and maybe this is more of a question for all of us. So assuming this project goes forward, we get the new underground water line, what happens with the above ground water line? I mean, do you tie both in together, or do we shut one off? I mean, we're talking about redundancy, but if we get to a point where they decide that, when they do a new bridge, we can't have that water line, we're back to square one.
Yeah, I think the plan at this point would be to keep that older crossing active, and then once it gets old or gets removed as part of bridge rehabilitation, the village would have to make some decision about whether it needs to be replaced or not. It wouldn't need to be. That the new crossing will be a little more modern and reliable and newer. That's pretty consistent. It's similar to new transmission main. You've still got that old transmission main active, but it may not be active forever. So.
And Adam, I would argue that we're repetitively reminded we own that bridge. So if we want to put a water line back up there, we can.
Yeah, good point.
I'd say, Adam, you probably, you want to keep both of those in service moving forward. And I think what Reg said, when they replace the bridge to do the rehab, then you want to reconsider, replacing that or upgrade it. So you can, again, you've got those two redundant crossings.
Yeah. And how would you tie both into one line? How would you do that? Obviously you're not going to run a separate line all the way up. I'm assuming you're going to tie in at some point in the village.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Put that figure up for you.
So there's a couple different ways we could do this. We could just connect this into the water main on Depot Street, and that little section on Depot Street, you can have any redundancy there, but it's also kind of just a traditional water main that you can fix in the normal way, because it's not hanging on the side of a bridge or buried under a river. One of the probably more favorable option would be to connect in on Canada Street. That's this green route. That's a nice option. There might be some private property that has to be crossed there, so that there are some caveats associated with that. But that's definitely a nice option. So.
And I assume there's no money in for extra drilling equipment that might go missing.
I got that question too.
Let's not talk about that. So.
Just had to throw it in. Thank you, Wayne.
So, Michael, Wayne, this is Neil Spear. I've got two suggestions for the Marble Mill. Well, one suggestion would be to abandon the Marble Mill proposal for two reasons. One is there's infrastructure from the former marble plant under that area. So I think it would be kind of difficult to get through there. Plus, if you have to do you're going to have to do an archaeological study, whichever route you go. But it would be harder to accomplish under Marble Mill. And the second reason, we're in the process of doing some planning for renovating that whole area. And with your schedule for the water line, it's going to interrupt that plan. So I like the one coming down the hill from Canada Street. The green line in your drawing, but I kind of discouraged even proposing that Marble Mill project. So, I mean, I'm a lot older than Wayne, and I remember that area when there was a bunch of mills in there, and that would be it's all covered up now, but it'd be a difficult project, I think.
So how far down do they go? The mills, do you know? Because this is past the tennis courts.
Yeah, that's
fine.
good.
Yeah, that's the proposal right here.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the one.
That's-
He's talking the other
The
one.
yellow one,
The yellow one's
Oh,
on
the
top.
other one? Yeah, okay.
the yellow one I would not even consider. I'd spend my energy
Yeah.
on it. So,
That sounds like the advice to me. I think Red's been indicating that much as well.
and if you put that line down through Marble Mill, you're gonna have access to repair, and that might be kind of counterproductive to what the new proposals for revising that area are. So, I think that idea should be on the sidelines. That's just my recommendation.
Yeah, I think we generally agree with it too, Neil. That's why we kind of showed both. You know, as Mike said, Reg, identified some difficulties digging through the park there. And that's why we kind of then went over to Webster Terrace. There's also a great staging area. It's pretty flat there and access is pretty good. So that's really a nice spot to try to drill and get across the river over to the west side.
Okay.
Mr. President, can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Chris Leach, another trustee. Presently, all the houses on the west side of the river before the crossing get their pressure from the pressure station, is that right? Whereas the water, a lot of the people that live in the village, the water comes from gravities from the reservoir up on the hill. Is that true?
No, everything over there is all gravity fed. It's one pressure zone.
But everything on the west side of the river is from the pumping station, right?
Well, Chris, it depends a little bit. There's kind of two correct answers to that. If the water treatment plant is pumping from that end, that's probably going to be a higher pressure, so the water would tend to come from the west. If the pumps there are off, then it would tend more to come from the east, from the storage reservoir. And if you had a fire, you're going to tend to pull more of that water from the east side, from the Donaldson Hill Reservoir.
Okay, I just trying to bring myself up to snuff here. Now,
Good question.
with the 12-inch pipe, is that larger than what we have now?
Fluid mechanics means you travel low.
Than what's under the bridge,
You raise it
diameter-wise,
away.
capacity-wise?
You've got 12-inch, that current crossing's 12-inch and the new one would be 12-inch, and that's a pretty big pipe. That's plenty big for,
Sure. So
just about anything the village will need in the future.
there's no need to change pumping capacity or capability. Right?
No, wise, that's fine.
Now, condition of the riverbed, if you, I agree with what Neil is saying about the yellow line, but with the green line, do you know what the condition of the riverbed is there?
Artificial.
Yeah, that's part of the reason for recommending getting into the subsurface investigation a little bit earlier. You know, what we would do is do some probes and do some borings down there on both sides of the river, just so we can kind of confirm what's there for the, you know, subsurface kind of soil conditions.
Wayne, there's a requirement for depth under the river, correct?
That's correct, yeah, Reg, yeah, and they have to, you know, with a radius and all that, they have to set back far enough. Yes, there's a minimum depth and everything. In the old days, what you would do is, you know, low flows, you do half of it, you know, you only have about 2.5 feet of cover over it, but that's not allowed anymore. So yeah, it's well below the stream bed.
Now, the land is on the far side of the tennis courts. I'm not sure that's the village property. Is there an issue there?
I'm not sure either, Chris. I wonder about that. I think some of it might be.
Yeah, I'd have to go back. I thought that area there was,
Does that connect to Webster Terrace?
Yes. Looks like it's coming up Webster, or just to the east of it. if you will.
Yeah, that's where the existing sewer line comes
Yeah.
down through there.
And we own some of that right away already.
yes.
Yeah,
I
we've
think.
just got to be 10 feet horizontally for separation purposes.
And I think you've got it.
And my last question was already alluded to. With the issues that we had with the boring underneath the river, we cannot have that happen again. That was way too expensive and way too painful, and my hate for lawyers was doubled. So keep that in mind.
So you doubled down, Chris.
Michael, Adam again, you had shown a slide or a page where it showed an increase in the customer charge or? Yep. Can you just go back? I just want to understand it a little more.
Yeah, so that's a pretty rough estimate. It's just nice. We like to give people an idea of just how,
Right.
you know, how much.
Yeah, that's
impact.
my point. Yeah.
And so your annual payments, and there's a little bit of a typo here, the 15,000, that's if you didn't get that additional subsidy.
Yep.
But you're looking at about 1.5%, you know, that 15,000 is somewhere around like 1.5 to 2% of your current annual water system budget. So if you just had to raise your rates 1.5 to 2%, I think your current residential customers pay something like $400 or $500 a year. That additional 1.5 to 2% comes out to be, you know, say $6 a year roughly.
Yep. Yeah, because that's going to be a selling point, you know, when it comes time for the vote. You know, people are going to scream, well, how come it's going up? It's, you know, we can justify $6 a year approximately.
I think I could.
So, yeah, so one thing with the stress right now, there's a lot of uncertainty with the funding. Very hard to predict what's going to be available for the next year. The state's kind of delayed their issuing of the project priority list and what may be out there. I think a lot of communities are, you know, trying to move these ahead because they feel that, you know, the funding opportunities are going to be very good over the next year or two. For example, you've got those funds coming through the rescue plan. You know, you're going to, in roughly June, you're going to get $99 a person, and then a year later get, twice that. So that could be a possibility for funding here, and hopefully there's some more details on shortly on, but that is specific to potentially water and wastewater projects. And then with the enterprise, at the federal level, the hope is there's going to be some very, very good, attractive funding packages. So it may not even be that, but, just want to caution you, there's a lot going on right now, and, it's still a little bit of uncertain, but I think everybody's expecting there's going to be a lot of, infrastructure money coming down from the feds here in the next year or two.
Okay, I think, Wayne, this is Neil Spear again. I think we're all
Yep.
set on our end.
Okay, great.
We've got no more questions at this point. And,
Okay, great.
I thank you and Michael for your summary of what's going to happen there. And
Yes.
like you say, hopefully we can move this along within the next year or so. And if we need a bump, we'll set it up for that too, so.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. Thanks, Mike.
So, that being said, the next item on our agenda is that's an update on Bill S60. I'm assuming you're going to enlighten us on that, right?
Yeah, so I'll touch it real quick. So basically, VEPSA had a bill that passed through the Senate, and I want to thank Senators Brock and Parent, Corey Parent, for all their work. They were very supportive of this. Probably one of the reasons why they know that Swanton has a publicly owned utility, but they were very supportive. Brian kept putting bugs in people's ears for us, but VEPSA did a really nice job with this. So it's kind of nice to see VEPSA having a bill pass. So anyway, I'll just summarize it. Basically, a full traditional review of utility rates will be triggered for individual rate increases over 2%, or after the utility cumulative rate increases reach 10% since the last state review, or if a decade has passed since the last state review. So basically, in a nutshell, if when we go in for a rate case, VEPSA reviews our budget. So if VEPSA deems that we're good for a 2% rate increase, we can do it without having to go in front of the PUC, spending lawyer fees to represent us and all that other stuff. If we haven't gone forward in the past 10 years for a rate case, we have to go through a full-blown study
No matter
with
what.
the PUC involved.
That's how I read it.
Yeah,
If you go 10 years, yeah, that's the best you can do.
yeah. So the last time was, I think Lynn said 5 years ago.
2016 was our last rate case.
Okay.
Was it?
5 years ago.
So 5 years ago,
Seems like it was
2016.
yesterday.
Yeah. So if you can remember that one, we went in for 10%, they gave us 1.
Yeah.
We went back in again, and we wound up getting 7. So if they left us alone, we would have got close to where we needed to be. But the rate increase was less than what we spent on attorney fees. So we spent a ton of cash for the attorneys to fight it in the court. So this is a good win for public utilities and co-ops.
It really is.
Thank you, VEPSA. Thank you, Reg.
They also, Lynn, what was the other one that you and I went in and testified on? I think we mentioned it, the 108?
That was the financing bill last year, where as long as we have, our debt is less than 50% of our assets, we don't need to go to the voters when we finance for like bucket trucks and that sort of stuff. If something that we want triggers a 248, then we do have to go in front of the Public Service Board. But to do like normal, everyday, like vehicles and that sort of stuff, we typically will not have to go in front of our voters or the PUC again.
Progress.
Yes.
It's kind of, I mean, we manage our utilities well, I feel, and that just helps cement that fact that we are good stewards of our utilities, so.
Amen.
And the PUC is probably seeing that. And with BEPS's guidance too, helping us manage those things. Helping us, when they say us and we, it's the BEPSA members also. So. But that was it. I just wanted to bring that up to you.
Good news.
Yeah.
So that's
Thank you.
official?
That is official. Governor signed it last week, I think,
Yeah, I think it, maybe Thursday.
April 30th.
Yeah. We can have it.
Very good.
Good. Well, like you said, thanks to our senators for backing us up, our representatives down at Montpelier. So, okay, that's good news. So, you're all set with that, Rich?
Yep.
Next item on the agenda, discussion on AMI smart meters for Swanton Village. This came up once before, too.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it before, but I know there was another utility within BEPSA that their directors or their trustees had an issue. So we're just we're circling back to make sure we're doing our due diligence and informing you folks on what that AMI discussion was all about. And Lynn was part of the task force and went through, what was it, 4 vendors and about 8 feet of paperwork to go through.
Yeah, we started out with like
8 or 10 vendors, and we narrowed down to 3, and then we narrowed down to 1. So the vendor that we chose, BEPSA-wide, was Aclara. They use the same meters. They use the GE, what used to be the GE meters, which is what we use. And they'll work with any water meter. So BEPSA's still in negotiations with them as far as fine tuning the contract. Right now, rough numbers for us, the year 1 outlay, which would be most likely financed, which is all the electric meters. For the water meters, there's like a part that goes on the meter head that allows it to be read AMI. And then like the software, our share of the cost of the software that BEPSA will use, that's going to be about $811,000. And then we've got like our specific non-Aclara costs, which is integrating our billing software to Aclara so it can read it, installing the new electric meters and water meters, integrating our Empower, other minimal, costs, and then they have a contingency. So what the consultant has figured in for those costs is $353,000. I feel like that is high, because meter installation costs, we have to pay our guys to be, at work 40 hours a week. The electric meters, at least, our line crew, is what Dwayne and I have talked about. Our line crew is going to install those. So it's not extra money out of our pocket because we're already paying them. It'll be allocated different. And like our CSI, which is our billing software integration, they've got $35,000 listed. That's high compared to what our Cogsdale vendor has told me it's going to cost. So I think those numbers are a little high. So we're looking at like the first year rough cost outlay is about 1.1 million. But then when you look at years 2 through, I think they did a 15-year study. They start out at like 28,000, and there's like a inflation factor built in every year. So out through year 15, which brings it to 46. So after what they've estimated is after 15 years, we will have had AMI costs of just over $2 million. So there's, they're thinking we're going to have efficiencies in outages, because we're gonna know when there's an outage right off, because there's gonna be a last gap, meter read. As far as remote reconnect and disconnect of meters, although the Public Service Board has not, in the disconnect rules that they're trying to rewrite, they're not allowing that in there. So we'll see if that'll happen. We'll be able to know if there's an outage, what meters are affected, and really pinpoint those outages. So there's some benefits to it. A customer, we're going to be able, if they complain and say, we aren't using that much water, we're not using that much electricity, we're going to be able to tell them what times of the day, because they're going to be on a 15-minute read cycle. So we'll be able to interpret the data better with our customers and see when they're using the most power. So there's definitely benefits to it. It's just, it's going to be time consuming, and it's not going to be an easy transition.
Yeah, one of the good things with the water meters is that we'll probably wind up buying the water meters ourselves. But, so with these issues I didn't know my toilet was running until you got your monthly bill. Well, 15-minute reads, all of a sudden, if it starts to click up, we get an alarm in our software, and it says, hey, resident so-and-so, they're having an increase in water consumption, need to go check. And you can call them right up and say, hey, we're noticing this. Or within the patient portal, customer portal, they can go in there and actually see it themselves. You can see where their usage is, how it goes up. Down the road, when they start having the time of use electric rates, this will be important for a customer to be able to see, well, if the rates that during this time period are higher, then maybe I don't dry my clothes at 5 in the afternoon. Usually electric dryer or your air conditioner, maybe you do it later in the day. So these are all things that are coming down that are mandated by the state that we don't have a choice. It's really getting thrusted upon us to go this route, but doing it in aggregate with VEPSA and the other utilities, I think is we looked at this since I've been here, because I've gone to these conferences and it just did not pan out as far as I was concerned. But I think doing it the way we're doing it is the best bet.
Collectively.
Yeah, and then you're getting a lot of eyes on this, and it's a better choice, I think.
Lynn, Adam here. What is the lifespan of these new meters?
So a water meter has
Never really had a lifespan more than 15 years. Many of our water meters are well over that date.
Oh,
So,
God, yes.
I mean, we're proposing that we're probably going to end up changing all the water meters out. What I had proposed to Reggie and Dwayne and Dean was, we need to draw a line in the sand and say, we're going to change out water meters that are more than 10 years old or 12 years old, and then put the rest on a life cycle cost. So if they're 10 years old now and we didn't change them out, 5 years, it's going to pop up and that group of meters would get changed. They're saying these electric meters, 15 to 20 years, they actually have a battery in them. And when the battery is done, the meter's done.
Yep.
So, we're not going to we've got meters in our system from back in the 60s. They're not efficient anymore. They aren't reading, I can't say they're not reading accurately, but they slow down just a little bit every year. So the customer's using power that they're not getting accounted for. So, it's going to force us to change out meters on every couple of decades.
Yep.
Lynn, this is Chris. My only thought is, absolutely do I not want any meters made in China. Absolutely, they gotta be American made. If it's GE and it's made in America, I'm all for it.
So with Aclara, we're locked into that brand of electric meter, I believe. They work with several water meter companies. We can pick whatever we want for water meters. We kind of are leaning towards sticking with Neptune like we've been using. That way everything in our system is the same. But I'm pretty sure with the electric meters, we have to go with the Aclara brand, which I believe is the old GE meter.
Not made in China.
I don't know.
I will scream up and down with what they're doing with the electronics, what's just been done with gas lines, breaking into people's, electronic stuff. You do not want anything made in China. I don't care what you say, what you do, cannot be done. Tell them we won't take them if they're made in China. That's my vote.
You hear Chris?
Yep.
Lynn, did you hear Chris?
No.
Yeah, he said if the electric meters are made in China, he's gonna pitch a fit. Yeah, I don't know where, I think they're US made, but we can,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
we can verify that.
I'll be asking again.
Hey, Brandy.
And I'll look for, and I want proof.
Okay. You didn't hear that?
You did.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I'll have to talk to Ken Stanmore on that.
Okay,
He would have that data.
okay. All right,
Okay.
just wanted to make sure that you were up to speed on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. So,
Tell Brandy hi.
yeah.
Tell Brandy hi, Lynn.
I will. Babysitting the dog.
Okay. Yeah, we gotta make sure we're talking towards the puck, otherwise they don't hear us.
Okay, okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda this evening, we discussed last meeting, the Village of Swanton formally changing the name of Flatiron Park to Veterans Memorial Park. And that's up for discussion, but I think we can have
Yeah,
a motion.
it was just that, I think you guys already did the motion. Diane had, basically she put the ordinance in place. So now, understanding how the ordinance works, it's got a 90 days, Diane?
60 days.
60 days?
Yeah. So I just wanted to just give an update that the ordinance update has been put together. It'll be in the messenger, posted around town, and it'll be effective June 25th.
Okay.
So, but we'll have something written up for Adam for Memorial Day.
Yep. So the plan is to do a rededication, just a quick reading,
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
and then it'll obviously be official June 25th.
okay.
Has there been any feedback? Because it was in our minutes.
We had,
Just
And
positive.
posting.
Yeah, positive feedback. People are,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
I saw it posting almost right away. It's
yeah.
nice. Well read.
very good.
Good. Okay, item number 11. This is Chris's formal report.
Favorite?
The first quarter SQRP acknowledgement, our evaluation of ourselves and reports to the state.
Very good.
And we passed with flying colors as usual, I'm assuming.
Yes,
I don't have
we
it
did.
in front of me right
Oh,
now.
yeah, it was beautiful.
Perfect.
Was very.
Looks good. My only question for Diane is, how are we doing with delinquent, and not how are we
So,
receiving the money, but do we have an astounding amount of people that are delinquent on their payments?
yes. I would say because of the moratorium that was placed on the village, we weren't allowed to mail disconnect notices or do any actual disconnections. We could mail a disconnect reminder letter. We had to reword it, but we are carrying, I would say, more debt than normal because of the moratorium.
It looks like that's about to turn around, though.
It is.
What I read in the news tonight.
It looks like it's going to be lifted soon. We don't know. We haven't received the exact word. I think they're still working on it, but it's probably coming to an end real quick.
Okay. As far as the actual, our performance in the S-Quirk report, I think we're, like has been said, we're pretty good. It's, granted, we're evaluating ourselves, but we do pretty well. I would love to know how we do against others, but I'm sure we do better. But I would like to just have the minutes show that we acknowledge the report and we are very satisfied and approve.
Press on. Yes, on to the next report, so.
Diane, do you know what our increase in our debt carrying is? Is it?
If Lynn's still on, she might have that information. I don't have that info.
Okay. So, I'm curious if we're,
Do you know, Reggie?
I don't.
I think it's up. It's definitely up.
I know the first quarter. Linda, you're on, right?
Lynn?
Can you repeat that?
The first quarter arrearages that were covered.
Chris want to
Right
know.
now, our arrearages are up. They haven't started the new VCAP program yet.
Okay.
what is our percentage that we're carrying over and above what we normally would?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I know that it is, well, I can't go back to a year ago because we were in this pandemic a year ago.
Yep.
So if I go back farther than that, we are, I would say, close to double what we carry out over 30 days. But our total accounts receivable is pretty close to what it normally has been. So our current bills are getting paid, it's just the old stuff. And electric's worse off than water and sewer.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next up, item number 12, any other necessary business? And I know, Reg, you've got something on the hydro.
Yep, we're gonna do a hydro presentation here.
I think Elizabeth wants to say something too, but I don't know if her coach is there.
Elizabeth, you on? You wanna, how quick are you? Or do you wanna stay and watch hydro?
I'm here and I can be really quick, and no offense, I'd really rather not watch hydro.
Be that way.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give a quick update on Riviera Hotel in particular. I am meeting with Greta from NRPC, so let me back up. The Riviera Hotel is in the umbrella program, the Brownfield Reuse and Environmental Limited Liability Program, which gives us some priority points for funding. The umbrella program is out of funding right now, but when the fiscal year starts in July, they anticipate having quite a bit of money, and they're putting us in the pipeline. The application has been submitted, so it will be picked up when funding becomes available in July. She sounded really positive that we'll get funding for the Phase 2 work plan, so that potentially could happen this summer. So we can get some of the brownfield stuff taken care of. So it's all real positive, things slowly moving forward on the Riviera front. I'm talking with Greta from NRPC tomorrow. She has some petroleum funds, and we're going to see if we can use those as well. So that may cover some of the Phase 2 work plan. So I just wanted to give an update that there are things slowly moving on the Riviera Hotel. So any questions on that before I jump to the last thing?
Nope.
So we've got until, this is Neil, so we've got until July to clean it up before anybody else gets in there?
Well, you'll have until probably mid-July when they announce I've never done an application, so I'm not sure how quick the turnaround is, but it seems like it's probably going to be pretty quick. So I'll give you to the 1st of August.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And then just kind of a heads up, we've seen a draft of the downtown scoping study report. They are making we had some questions, the steering committee had some questions and comments. So you'll see a presentation on that we anticipate at your next meeting. So just a little heads up that is moving forward, and then hopefully we can start to implement some of the short term while we look for funding for some of the long-term changes. And no, I'm not going to give any highlights. You'll have to wait until the 24th.
Okay. So we'll try to make our 24th agenda light for that presentation.
Yep. So, and we want to make sure that we do some public outreach so that they know particularly folks in the area, so that they are aware of it. So that's all that I have. I give overview updates to the select board, just so they know that I'm doing something, and I wanted to give you an update on the Riviera, so that since it's your project, you have as much information as the select board has. So that's all that I have.
All right.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your work.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
Take care.
You too. Thanks.
So now we have a couple of people from our hydro. Reggie, I assume is going to introduce Dave and Scott.
Yep.
And
Let me
I'll
see
turn
if
it
I
over to
can
Reggie.
do this intelligently first, which sometimes it's a challenge. So let me stop that for a minute. So I want to, Scott, get a chance just to say hi to everybody. You got you on the big screen here, but they see your monthly maintenance reports and all this other stuff, but just, if you want to just chair this up or tee this up briefly, and I'll put it up on the big screen.
Sure. So Dan, over the past year, has kind of put together a nice set of charts that will help the operators choose which units are best or most efficient at whatever CFS we have. He's taken the time. He's really put together a nice presentation, and I hope in the future it makes us more efficient with the water we have. That way we produce more power, which will help VEPSA in their projecting as time goes on. I feel in the past we've been not so efficient in leaving power out on the table. So with that, we'll hand it over to Dan.
Okay, so.
I hope you heard me.
Yes, we did.
Yes, sir.
So Dan, I don't have you on, I don't have you on TV.
That's okay.
But, Lynn, can you see the presentation where you are?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good, okay. Go ahead. You should be able to flick it.
Not sure with her.
All right, so those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Daniel Chabay. I'm your lead operator at the Omar Croft Generational Facility out in 207. Scott set me the task to check our efficiency at the hydro. You know, your vehicles, you guys check their miles per gallon. He wanted CFS versus kilowatt. Were we getting every kilowatt we get for every gallon of water we were going through the plant? And we actually found out that we weren't. And we actually went with a system to increase generation. And that's why I've been working on this last year. It was a good project to do in 2020, actually, because we had some free time. What we came up with was this chart. Once the operator goes through the checklist they go through to figure out how much CFS they have, we now have the ability to choose which generator is going to make the most amount of generation per the kilowatts that they have at the time. Something I saw in the past was they were using two of the smaller generators because under the belief system that two smaller generators, less water, right? Well, it actually turned out that they were using double the amount of water they had to be versus using one of the bigger units by itself and nothing else running. Using this chart, we've been able to find ways of increasing up to anywhere from 200 to a whole megawatt an hour more within a 24-hour period.
Wow.
This has been implemented for about a month now. We had a shop meeting last Thursday to make sure everybody was on board. We also were able to implement where we kept them within their peak efficiency, not going outside the parameters of how they were running. You run too low, you're not getting enough kilowatts per CFS. You run too high, and then you're just throwing water through the unit, and there's a cap where it's just you're just spending water through the unit. All the operators now have this chart, and it becomes part of our daily, hourly check to make sure that we're getting the best that we can get for the water going through it
So
as well.
if I can just real quick, so Dan, when we talked about trying to figure out how we can run the plant more efficiently, Dan put this up there. Basically, it's a tool for the operators. So if you have this, then that. kind of thing. So if I got water and, or I don't have water, how can I optimize the amount of water I have and get the most kWh out of it? Correct?
That's correct. This chart does not apply during spring runoff because at that point everything's on, everything's wide open. This chart does help very much in like drought situations where we have low water to almost no water. Then you can really pinpoint which units you want to use and how you want to use them. We also went as far as to graph out each unit's efficiency curve. Big example would be like unit 4. When you go from 60 to 50%, you're losing 700 kilowatts for that block of water. So you may not want to turn that one down. You may want to keep that additional 700 kilowatts and turn down one of the smaller units that only has a 2 or 300 kilowatt drop instead of the 7. So you're keeping it really at its peak efficiency curve. And so go ahead and zoom back out.
You can scroll back and forth. Okay.
Sorry. So we did 3 as well, and we also did 1 and 2. Go ahead and zoom back out. We also did 1 and 2 as well. 1 and 2 are the smaller units. 2 is pretty much a workhorse. The efficiency for that unit is constant the whole way through. The biggest gap is 100 kilowatts for every adjustment. So that one's pretty much our workhorse, and it's our best unit to run during drought time. So it worked out really good that way. 1 has an efficiency around 70%. Once you decide you're going to go below that, you're going to lose 200 kilowatts. These are all tools that we've given to the operators. I haven't found an older version of this, so it really did bring us into the next generation, making sure that we're doing everything we can with water coming downriver. I pulled out 3 examples from 2018, 2019, and 2020 to show you what this chart is going to do for us, for you to do our due diligence. This was taken 9/29/2018. The top section here is how the operator ran it that day. This one was wide open. This one they used a little bit to manage the water, and then this was kind of like the overflow. Scroll to the left a little bit. We use 1729 CFS within that 24-hour block. Can you scroll out right here? Yep. With using the chart and using a single unit, 142. I was able to calculate a way to use less water and was able to wind up making...
I think I pushed you ahead. Hang on.
You're all right.
Let me bring you back.
Was able to make 22.2 megawatts more using less water than what the operator did that day.
Let me see if I can. There's the 17,219.
Yep, that's what the operator actually used. Had we had the chart back on this date, we only would have used 17,142, 77.2 CFS difference less, and you would have made 22.2 megawatts more within that 24-hour block. And that was water that we let go downriver. You know, using this chart, we're going to pick that up. Go ahead and zoom out. We were also able, I've been working very much with VEPSA as well, working with Heather Darcy and Sean Enterline, and they affect our bidding. And I was able to get numbers from Heather. What that computes to is that $25.52 amount on the actual generation. Had we been using the chart back then and having that level of efficiency, we would have done an additional $558 with a grand total of $31.10. That was the difference between the 2 days.
So go back and explain a little bit more about what Heather and Sean do for us.
Well, I was going to do that during the last section.
Okay.
So that was just one day in 2018. There's a lot of them like it. 2019, it's also very similar. You can see so this unit here is almost turned all the way off. This one again is almost turned all the way off. And then this one's about 3/4 of the way on. And it was 971 CFS. Not really the way you want to be running those units. And having this chart now, the operator's going to see it right off. They're going to be like, you know what, I can turn things around. Go ahead and scroll down. That same hour block, this one's almost wide open, this one's wide open, and upstairs it was 971, now you're at 975, so you're using 4 CFS more. That's nothing. I mean, that's a little bit less of a difference. Go ahead and zoom back out. So just between these two numbers, the actual was 21,046. The chart estimated to be 21,040, so a 6 CFS difference, 14.2 megawatts we missed out on. So this is that efficiency that Scott had sent me down the road to try to find, $471 difference between the two. The third day is much like the other three, where we have 3 and 1 running versus having one unit all by itself. It was 157 CFS less had we done it this way. 25 megawatts within that 24-hour window that we missed out on.
A lot.
It is a lot. And it's not really to anybody's fault, it's just that we haven't really evaluated the efficiency lately.
Sure.
But having spent that entire year of just sitting there with the units, playing with them at different times, this amounts to $411. All 3 days total, if you were to add the sum, we missed out on 31.41 megawatts. I think we can pick it up. We're training the guys to pick it up. We're training them to get every gallon they possibly can. And the chart, the initial part of the presentation, I think is going to be the road to get us there. Because having that information of which each unit is doing at each CFS, you can start crunching the numbers a little bit. It seems to be working so far. So yeah, grand total of $1,441 amount for those 3 days. So I think we can get it for you. I think it's going to be good for everybody. The operators have been responding to it. The other thing that Scott had me work on too is that our bidding. Heather Darcy and Sean Interline, we send them our bid, projection for the next 24 hours, what we're going to do. And it's kind of like a blueprint. Unfortunately, when we used to send that in this form where it was, the low was going to be 2, the high was going to be 6, and at any given time we can do 10 because that's the plant's capacity. We sent them that chunk, but it wasn't pinpointed.
Explain that Eco-Min, Eco-Max, please.
Okay. The Eco-Min is, we're telling them that's the bottom line, that's the least amount of generation we're going to do within the 24-hour block window. That is going to be our bottom line, we won't go into that. The Eco-Max is the max we're going to do in that day. That's saying we're probably not going to go above that. If you do go below it, it does kind of penalize you because you're not getting what you promised. And if you go above, that's not necessarily a bad thing because you're making more generation than what you said. But then you get hit with D&Es, do not exceed orders, because then you're setting too much to the grid. So we used to send it in this form to
They
where
would curtail us. They would tell us to stop operating,
Yeah.
go below that Eco Max.
Yeah.
And
I'm
we
sure
had
they
water,
did.
we'd be spilling, losing money, but.
Right. So one thing we've been doing with Heather and Sean is we've been doing pinpoint bidding. And what Heather's come up with is she takes a day's generation, which is here, you can see the actual day's generation for 3/7/2021, and she sees what we actually did. The next day's generation, unless it rained or unless we had snow melt, it really doesn't change a whole lot. She then took it and applied it to the next day and was able to give us a high and low, and it would give it to the pinpoint accuracy within like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then we turned down a little bit in the afternoon, and then in the evening hours, second shift, 3 to 11, which is the peak hours, she would identify that we would turn back up. That pinpoint bidding and that pinpoint accuracy has allowed us to not only stay within our perimeters a little bit better, but also catch the dollar amounts where they need to be caught and giving them what we promised to give them, versus giving them the block of the 6 and 2 and they get it when they get it.
So the other thing that, Dan, if you could mention is how we operated during those peak times. We actually, the efficiency of the units and how much CFS it takes to get your KW, we found that if you run your brains out to catch the money, we're actually losing money because the pond doesn't catch back up. So when you're looking at your efficiency, go ahead, you could probably explain it better than I can.
Okay, so what Reggie was talking about was an old methodology of how we ran the plant. There's 2 peaks. There's one in the morning when everybody's clicking everything on and shops are getting going. And there's a second peak in the afternoon to where people are getting home, TVs are coming on, AC units, heaters, stuff like that. So there was a morning peak and a second shift peak. What was happening was that we were trying to get so much generation out in the morning peak that we would suck the pond down to a certain percentage, and then when we turned down to let the pond fill back up again to catch the second shift, sometimes we weren't prepared for that second shift because we hit the first one too hard. Having the ability in the chart of measuring our CFS down right to the point gives us the ability to be like, this is what the pond's at, this is what the peak's is gonna wind up being, or close to it, because they're similar from one day to the next. We can estimate how far down we need to go before we need to stop and come back up to be ready for the afternoon peak, which is the major one, which is the one they want us to prioritize.
So found out, though, rather than run like that, and then drain it all down, you do it gradually, you build it up, you grab grab the efficiency during those hours,
Sure.
and then you bring it back down slowly, so that way the pond's filling back up, so then you can hit it again in the afternoon.
I have a question, and it's been with me for about 10 minutes now. When Sheldon changes their usage, how does it affect you and how quickly does it affect you?
So when Sheldon changes their usage, we get an email to Hydro and lets us know what they're doing. We see their change in about 45 minutes.
45 minutes.
About 45 minutes from the time where their change happens to where it affects us.
So it's not gonna hurt you too bad then?
No, we can usually get the email, see what the change was, and then adjust accordingly soon thereafter. Sheldon's got a little bit of a trickiness to it because if they have a unit down or if they're having problems, they will be spilling while at the same time doing generation, which it makes it harder to get the exact amount. But they are one of the guides, one of the tools the operator uses to predict what's coming down. We use a North Troy gauge, we use a Berkshire gauge, and we use the Sheldon. Between those three is the formula to how we start figuring out what we got coming down. The other day, actually on Saturday, Sheldon shut completely off, shut my water off for about an hour. And then they turned back on again, so I had to follow the water for about 4 hours. I had to follow that flow. But I knew what was coming given the emails we get once an hour.
That's important.
Absolutely.
Is that something because that you developed with Sheldon, or was it a state mandate?
I think we developed that with Sheldon, but,
This is Scott. That was some legacy information we got. I think Al put that together way back when.
Okay, makes sense.
How big
Thanks,
is their
Scott.
generation?
Sure.
How big is Sheldon's generation capability? 25 minutes?
24 to 25, yeah. That's wide open and that's sending everything through, yeah.
Do they do that often?
No, pretty much during spring runoff or a major water event. I saw them just do it just recently during this last rainstorm. But no, usually they're anywhere from they're a few megawatts more than we are until we reach 10. And then from there, if we're doing 10, they're probably doing 12s, 15s. We can match them. Not megawatt per megawatt, but we have a cheat sheet back at the hydro to where if they're doing 7s and we're doing 5s, that's the perfect flow of the river. CFS versus CFS, so,
Okay.
which helps out with your pinpointing accuracy.
Are they running 24/7?
Yes. No, it was a year-long project, and like I said, I think there's more megawatts to be gained, and the operators are on board, they've been working hard, and at the end of the year, I won't be able to come to you and say, well, here's this enormous amount of megawatts available that we weren't picking up before, because at the end of the day, we are subject to rain, snowfall, nature, and everything else. But I will be able to tell you on a week-by-week basis the percentage rate of our efficiency, which is substantially increased over the last month, and will continue to. So,
Job well done.
Good work, yeah.
okay.
Makes sense to me.
Very impressive.
yeah, this is something that we've been wanting to do. I mean, it's like, I'd like to have, operators that are there during that day can make intelligent decisions on production and, maintenance of the plant, all 3 shifts. Everybody is, it's really nice to see.
One of the ways we used to run the units was like if you made an adjustment change on a unit, the pond stayed still, you knew you had a perfect flow of in and out. But it wasn't a perfect efficiency flow, it was just, that's what kept the pond still. But as you saw from like some of the other charts, I won't use that one. Like this one is here, I have the pond level, 189.3 to 189.2. There's not really a whole lot of fluctuation with the pond level, so the operator at the time thought he was being efficient because the pond wasn't moving. Well, he was just matching the water CFS versus CFS, but he wasn't matching his peak of performance for each unit. He was just using the water in a different manner, so.
Isn't that what we used to do 20, 30 years ago?
Yeah.
That's all we did.
Any other questions?
No? Good job.
Yeah, good job, Dan.
Very good job.
Scott, you got anything you want to add to that?
No, I think Ben did a great job outlining it. Yeah. Very happy with it.
Yeah, thank you for giving Dan that opportunity to do that too. I mean, it's just
Well,
exactly what we needed.
he stepped up and he took hold and he took it all the way. It's his baby. Did a nice job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Dan.
Yep, thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
You want to say any more, Scott?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, well, thank you for being here too. Real impressed. Seems real nice to have somebody is into his job as Dan is. You can tell he loves what he's doing and he's doing a good job with it. We really appreciate it.
It's nice having him do that.
Yeah.
It's
And you
a relief.
and you seem to be a pretty good coach too, Scott.
Yes.
So.
Oh, what? I'm sorry?
You're a good coach.
Yeah, you're a good, yeah, so thank you both, so.
All right, I gotta figure out how to stop this thing, so hang on.
Okay.
I think if I go, yep.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there.
There you go.
There.
There we go. We're back.
Holy cow.
Okay, anybody else have anything under, other necessary business? Chris, you're looking at me.
I just wanted to, I noticed the swans are there and people are flocking to it. And it's really a nice job Adam took care of that.
I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, Mark did it, but he was down there coaching them
Yep.
the other night.
Yep, Public Works went in the last 3-4 weeks, got the pond ready, made a small adjustment. We had a small leak, they fixed that, so the water level got up and the swans came in Friday afternoon. And, you know, it's, Mark did a good job, and shout out to the gentleman that took care of the swans all winter long for us. What a great job he did. The swans are healthy. Can't thank him enough for what he did for us, so.
Good, so, anybody else?
I'm good.
No, I'm good.
Thank you.
I've got a couple of things. The Beautification Committee has started stepping forward. You can't see their work yet. Well, some of it you can. We've got the flower boxes from the bridge were taken down and spruced up a little bit where they were coming apart, and we got them rebuilt and stained a color. Hopefully they match the Purple Heart for the veterans of the Vietnam War. But we hope to have it done, the flowers in them before Memorial Day. Udaks are supplying the flowers, and the Beautification Committee is lining it up. They drummed up some support, financial support, and I installed some small plaques on the bottom of the boxes today for the people that have donated, and we appreciate those people and all that are helping us out with the flowers and decorations for Memorial Day. And the Riv Hotel cleanup project, like Elizabeth says, is moving a little slowly, but now that the weather's changing, we're going to be able to get some of the outside cleaned up, hopefully without infringing on our assessment. But the lawn has been mowed so we can see our way around the building now. And Neil Spear Construction is going to take the Merry Christmas sign off the front of it because I guess that's about overdue. So, but and with the help of Elizabeth and the hopefully the Regional Planning Commission, we'll be able to keep steady movement on that. It's not going to be immediate, but hopefully we can get that block cleaned up. So another thing I'd like to say is I congratulate Reg and his team, Al Mosier and Noel Anderson and Diane Day's husband, Johnny, for remodeling our auditorium. It looks great. Hopefully someday the general public will be able to come in and see it. We have a beautiful new sign, some new wiring. The railing's all done and the whole place has been painted. It looks great, and I appreciate that. And
That's off.
everybody will too.
Yeah,
So.
Avery Mitchison helped as well.
Yep. So.
Very nice.
It looks great.
Amazing what
So-
the paint will do. Huh?
So, if there's nothing else,
Yeah, I have a couple things.
Oh yeah, you're here too. I forgot. Yeah, Reg, what would you like to say?
Yeah, you won't be. Richard Copperthwaite wants the village to go in for another 10, 15 filming. So I'll send emails out to you folks if you want to attend. And then, we keep hearing about this ARPA money, the American Recovery, whatever PA stands for. Pretty amazing, or whatever you want to call it. But I've been getting a lot of requests from people that it's going to be kind of like 4th Street. I think everybody wants to have a say in how the money's going to get spent, or have ideas how the money's going to get spent. So I talked to James Gilmet. I asked him, I said, would you be opposed to having a joint meeting once we figure out what the guidelines are for this, and just sit down and talk about, who's getting what and what projects are on the table? And he said, yeah, that'd be awesome. I sat down, I've had a list of projects that I've had for a while. And
Is this the $99 per person that Wayne alluded to?
yeah, if you can call it that, I guess.
Yeah.
So these are just, 26 projects that just come off the top of my head that we have been discussing and tossing around for a while.
Yep.
You got the river crossing, and the design is basically completed, about 800,000. You got the water plant, the phosphorus reduction study. They're still reviewing those. To redo the plant, that's about $5 million. You got the wastewater plant pilot study, that study's complete, and about 300,000 for that. Downtown scoping study, we're nearing the final design. We don't know what that's gonna look like. It was part grant, part us. Streetscaping, within this project, we're reviewing ideas. We don't know what that figure's gonna be. Marble Mill design, that has been complete. That was the engineers that came in and said, hey, if you did all this, that was about $3 to $4 million, I think, for that project. If we break it down smaller, we still have discussions. We don't know what that looks like yet. You got Don Bell's pump station, that needs to be rebuilt. That was about $600,000. We got the Veterans Memorial Bridge, the expansion joints are in bad shape. An engineer just gave us a preliminary, that's $300,000 to $500,000. We got water valves that we need to install within the village because a lot of our shutoffs are aged and we can't shut the lines down to repair them. So we got to go way out, and that's, they call it insertion valves, and they're $1,000 an inch. Put those in. So if you had a 6-inch line, you get a $1,000 insertion valve.
That sounds like 6,000.
6,000, yeah, sorry. 6,000, sorry. What did I say?
One.
Right, but it's $1,000, sorry.
$1,000
$1,000
an
an inch.
inch, so a 6-inch line.
Yeah, 6 inches, 6,000, yeah. Okay, anyway, sorry.
That's okay.
You got curb stop replacements. That's, we try to budget them and stuff as we go, replace so many per year. We got some old 4-inch lines.
Old what?
4-inch
4-inch
lines in
lines.
the village, and to replace them to 8, that's about $22,000 for 250 feet. We figured that one out when we did the Depot Street upgrade. We got some 6 inches that need to be replaced, same thing, about 26,000 for 250 feet. We got the AMI, and the AMI for water and electric, about 1.3 million, Lynn talked about tonight. We got this building redesign, that came in at 5.2 million, but if we break it down to manageable pieces, there's a smaller project between 500,000 and 700,000 possibly. You got sidewalk repairs that happen annually. You got paving that happens annually. You got bridge deck work that we do annually. You got the RIV project that's going on now. You got park restorations that are ongoing with Marble Mill, Veterans Park, and the beach. You've got the airport water line project. I mean, that's not going to be really anything out of our pocket, but that's a project that's there that, you know, to keep an eye on. And then South River Street, George Klein water line, that's been a line that, boy, it's been in there for years. It's a 2-inch service. It comes across Fournier's yard and heads down, and it's privately owned by those people along Route 7. So.
Route 78.
North River, 78.
It's gotta be North
I said
River.
south?
Yeah,
Yeah, Route 7.
that's gotta be on North River.
North, sorry.
If that line goes, is that the one that goes all the way to the fire floor?
Yeah.
It is? That's a 2-inch line?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So
What about lines in the industrial park?
those are 8s.
Those are big.
Those are big, but those come up from behind, so you'd have to,
Yeah.
you got lots behind there, you'd have to cut between lots
We have
to
to
do service lines.
connect somehow.
Yeah. Or you go down between JD's place
Yeah.
and Barat's, you know, that lot there, whatever the heck that road is. Yeah.
Babby Boulevard.
What's that?
Is it Babby Boulevard?
Abbey, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you cut down through there, then you come up around and loop it in. So that's something we need to, you know, we've been keeping on our radar. When people ask if you got a 5-year plan, well,
There you go.
yeah, kind of.
Yep.
What's servicing Chris's area, Gallup Court? That's that 2-inch line?
Oh, that's bigger.
No, it's some village.
That's bigger.
Gotcha.
It's village owned.
So when people, you know, say, well, what are we gonna spend the money on? Well, $600,000 supposedly that I've been hearing that we're supposed to get, but I haven't gotten any official emails from anybody. That doesn't go far in this list of the projects.
I would think the water line crossing should be in a shovel-ready deal here. That ought to be on their radar for some money
Yeah.
with all this shit that he's pushing out.
You know, it's kind of like we got a rich uncle that passed away, and everybody wants a piece of the pie. But, you know, in this, you know, I don't identify, really don't identify any major projects for the line crew, other than the AMI. I mean, we did GISing for them. That's still, you know, annual maintenance GIS system, but the AMI falls in with the GIS, you know, as far as pinpointing where your outages are. So those go hand in hand. So yeah, I mean, Lynn, can you think of any others off the top of your head that I'm missing on this?
No, and I think what you're finding is we've always kept the electric side of the business up to date and have put a lot of money into our system. And we haven't put a lot of money into our water or wastewater system. So I think that's where you're seeing now we're having to put a lot of money in those systems. Because, you know, the electric, like we rebuilt all of the line 78 East and we, you know, with the transmission and the distribution, and we've upgraded the substation, and, you know, we've kept that
in good shape. But when you don't see the water and sewer lines buried under the ground, you kind of forget about them. And then the plants, you know, you do every 20 years, you do an upgrade. That's where we've kind of gotten behind.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, Lynn. I forgot about the aging sewer lines too, because a lot of those were put in around the same time periods as some of these water lines were.
Right.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
You're still finding orange bird.
Oh, yeah.
So that's just not to,
I didn't think that was ever any good.
That's a short list. We can make a lot longer list if we wanted to. Okay,
okay?
is that it for the other necessary business?
That's all I got.
We don't need any executive session this evening.
Keep from not stealing.
That being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn
You'll
this
have it for the
meeting.
next meeting.
So moved.
So we have a motion and a second to adjourn this regular meeting of the Swanton Village Board of Trustees for Monday, May 10th. No discussion on that, I assume. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This meeting of the Swanton Village Board of Trustees is closed. Thank you for your attention this evening and have a good evening.